Hello everybody. So welcome to the last theme of Quaran-zine. So now that we are on the very last one, next week we're gonna start the actual zine. So make sure to have your papers ready, whether it's the 12 by 18 one that we gave in the supply checkout, like when the school barely shut down, or you can use like your sketchbook paper that also works. If you don't have the 12 by 18 one. Also, like regular printer paper works. If you don't have any of that, then like lined paper works. Just make sure to contact me and we can talk about what papers you can use and definitely make accommodations. But today we're going to talk about the last theme, which is all about social distancing. So let's review what the questions are that we are supposed to answer. Alright, so social distancing. Why is social distancing so important? What does it look like to you? What are the guidelines we have been given about social distancing? And what are other methods to help keep us healthy? So these are some of the things that we are living on the day-to-day, such as wearing a mask every day whenever you go out anywhere, always being 6 feet apart from everybody. That's why there's like stickers on the ground, especially at like all the grocery stores like Walmart, and Target's another one that they're doing that. So take notes on that, like things that you see. So some of the guidelines that that they do and that we follow. So as always, make sure to label your paper and set it up. I already have it cut into 2. And I'm gonna do it on this bottom part just so that you guys can see it a little bit better. So remember, I'm just gonna title it Quaran-zine. You guys don't have to, I know what we're working on. So this is theme number 4, social distancing. And I'm just going to make a little circle like that. So I'm just gonna switch colors. And remember, you want a section for notes. So I'm just gonna do it over here. Remember, this is an optional template that works for me. If you want to do your notes on this side, that's fine. If you want to do them all over the page, that's fine, as long as I can see them and they make sense and they connect to your sketches. So why is social distancing so important? Some of the reasons, it's since the virus is spread so easily simply by like touching other surfaces, if like someone coughs on you, it's obviously you don't want to be near that. So let's right here. So virus is so contagious. Whoops, contagious. It's just generally safer for us to keep a distance. Since it spreads, so let's do a semicolon. It spreads among people who are in close contact. So this is something else that a lot of people are doing, is having one person be the designated person for going out and doing all the grocery shopping, because you don't want to expose so many people to the virus, especially those who are a little bit more vulnerable, whether it's young children or older people. So something else is what are other methods that we're advised to help keep us healthy? So obviously face coverings. They are now required in every store, place, restaurant when you're getting takeout, like wherever. You need to have a face covering. If you were able to have some or you already had some at home, I would say hand sanitizer is one of the best things to have if you're out doing your shopping. It's a little bit of a safe thing to do before you can actually get home and wash your hands with the soap and water. The hand sanitizer helps in that meantime. So with this hand sanitizer, no social gatherings. So I believe it was no gatherings more than 10 people, but I want to say that they changed that to 6 people. I don't remember, so someone please double check on that for me. Yeah, so I'm going to leave my notes like this. You guys can add more. And I am also putting some helpful links on Google Classroom and on the PowerPoint that you can look into that will give you a little bit more information. So now I'm going to create my boxes for my sketches. So remember, these are at least measuring 2 by 3, so 2 inches by 3 inches. I'm gonna freehand this one and let's see how good I get it. So that should be about 2 inches. It should be 3. And something like this. So one can be in landscape and the other one can be portrait. If you want to do both of them landscape, that works. If you want to do both of them portrait, that works too. Okay. So this is sketch number 1 and sketch number 2. And this theme's element of art is one that is very fitting. It is space, because you want to have at least 6 feet of space in between you and other people. Anyway, so when doing space and studying like the actual element of art, and combining it with social distancing, you want to think about what that looks like, apart from include like the stickers, but also include like some of the figures, things that you see when you're out. What are some of the things that they're wearing? Is it a face covering? Like just the mask. I know there's people out there that are getting really creative with their masks. I've seen some gas masks. I saw someone wearing a shirt. There's this guy on TikTok that did this whole series about wearing just ridiculous coverings, going to 7-Eleven and just seeing what he can get away with. So I want to say started with like a lid for a pot. Then he went on to a watermelon, and the finale was like an old TV. So people get creative. And I also created this so that I can show you the different ways of creating space. So there are 6 ways to do it, and I'll put this on Google Classroom as well. So the first one that we see is overlapping. So when seeing overlapping, you can see what object is clearly in the front, what's in the middle ground, and like the background. So there's a clear sense of what's in front of you versus like what's behind everything else. So when overlapping, the definition here is objects that appear to be behind or in front of one another. So this is a pretty simple one. Over here, value and shading, we reviewed this one in class. So light and shadow create the illusion of form and space. Now this one, I think it's a pretty important one to think about. So placement. Objects that are higher in the frame are further away. And if you put something that's closer to the bottom of the frame or like your page, they are closer to you. So for instance, this sphere down at the bottom, this one would be the foreground. Gonna zoom in a little. Very cool. And the one all the way over here, as you can see, I have a horizon line. This is what this is called. Separates the, let's say this is the floor, and this is a wall. So the sphere down here closer to the bottom of this box, like your frame, your page, is the foreground. It's closer to you. Now the one over here that's on top of the horizon line and just simply higher on the page, this one is your background. So meaning these two are in your middle ground. So that's what this is right here. So if this is one way of space that you choose to do, remember objects closer to like the bottom of your frame, those are the foreground. Those that are higher on the frame, that's your background. All right. Now another one that's pretty self-explanatory is size. So objects that are smaller, way over here, this little teeny tiny one. This one is obviously further away versus the ones that are much larger. This one is closer. So let's put some of the language to it. So larger in size, it is closer. It's closer to, I'll just put it to you, meaning it is the foreground. And objects that are smaller, and also notice it's higher on the frame, it is further, meaning it's also in the background. Now the next one, I personally really like this one. It is when objects that are closer to you, they have stronger details, stronger values, and as the further they go, and notice closer to you, still at the very bottom, and it has more detail, more value, etc. They go further, they rise on the frame, it starts to lose detail. It gets a little bit lighter. So that's what happens to the objects that are more distant. They're further away. So let's look at this one in front. It has strong detail slash value. It is lower on the frame. So where does that put it? Background, middle ground, or foreground? I'll give you a couple seconds. It's the foreground. I miss the interactive stuff, guys. So back here, the sphere that has less detail In things that's sort of like other drawings and paintings, they also tend to get a little bit more blurry. So that's another thing. It's like less detail. It loses detail and value in the sense of like shading and stuff, which is also another thing. It's higher on the frame, which also puts it on the background. So that making these two middle ground. I hope that makes sense. Middle ground for these two spheres. And the very last one that I have written down here is linear perspective. So this is when you need to have two key things are your horizon line, which is this right here. There we go. So you need a horizon line. And the other thing that you need, so let's do this as number 1. And number 2, you need a vanishing point. So this will give you the sense of things going like deep inside of the page, like almost you should feel like you can go inside. So as you can see with the circles that I made here, you would use a ruler for this. I don't have my small one near me, so I'm going to use this 18-inch ruler. So what you're gonna do is take your ruler or any other straight edge that you have. You're gonna put the very edge on the vanishing point, like so, and then very lightly draw your lines. Then afterwards you should just erase them. So another tip is to not move the ruler, like don't move the tip that's touching the vanishing point. So hold it down with your finger and just moving like the bottom part of it. You should be able to do this, moving it sort of like the moving hand on the clock. Just bringing it down on how thick or large you want your objects to be. Then you draw the next line and you just draw inside of it. So when learning perspective, this is what people do, and generally people do it with boxes, but for the sake of instructional purposes, I did it with circles. So remember, if you do something like this, you need a horizon line and you need a vanishing point. So that's what these lines are called. They are called orthogonal lines. So these will also help you a lot, the orthogonal lines. So I'm going to put this aside. All right, so let's get back to the actual sketches. So remember, you want to have space clearly represented. Use any of these tips that I showed you. So let's say my first sketch is looking at people in the grocery store. That's one of the obvious ones. So something that I see a lot is the stickers on the ground. Let's say like 2 carts apart, or like stand 6 feet apart for your personal safety. So I'm going to draw my horizon line. And I'm going to choose where my vanishing point is. So I'm going to do this, since this is where I'm going to put like the cash registers and stuff. And my orthogonal lines. Now for this, you want to use a ruler. I'm just gonna double check that my lines are nice and straight. This one's fine. And then bringing it down. this. Just going over that one again. And that should be good. So notice I didn't lift my ruler. All I did was grab it from the bottom, from like the very edge of the ruler. It's not, you can't see it, but the only thing that you're moving is the bottom. Don't lift the ruler, just simply slide it like that. Oh, and if this happens, just erase it, it's fine. So let's pretend I'm going to draw like my stickers. There's one. Also notice I didn't mess with these lines, so this gives it the sense of depth. And then I'm just going to draw in here, like the two little feet. And then when it's closer to me, they have stronger detail and value. The things that are in the foreground, they are lower on the page. Where are we? Here. So lower on the page, it's bigger, it's has stronger detail, and I practiced it using these lines. So see how all of these pretty much connect, and this gives you a good way to create space in your drawings. So I'm just going to continue here. So that's what my drawing looks like so far. Over here, I'm going to put so like the registers look like this. Now you don't need to have things like sitting on top of the horizon line, because this like what makes it look like things are actually overlapping is if you sit them on top of the horizon line versus above. So like this, you can tell that there's something in front, and this, like, I can't tell, is it supposed to be down here? Is it a poster on the wall? I don't know. So if you're doing something like this, you have your horizon line, make sure to lay things like on top of it, not above, unless they are things that are meant to be on a wall, or that are like the fruits and veggies that are attached to the wall. So that, and just adding a little bit more detail, like cash register number 1. So things like this. Now let's try placement. So let's say I want to create something with people being strictly 6 feet apart. Just gonna move this a little bit. There we go. And we can do something like some people so higher on the page, this guy's going to be further away, and lower on the page, this guy is going to be closer to like the viewer, the frame. Some of the precautions that are being told to us are to wear the face coverings. So I'm gonna do that, and I have them facing away from each other because that's how it's supposed to be. So something like this, and then you can just finish up your person. See if they are shopping and walking away from each other, keeping the safe distance that some people can't seem to grasp. but I know all of you are being responsible and great. So just keeping it simple but still adding a lot of detail. Make sure that you implement some of these ways that I just talked about, and this will give you a better sense of space and depth, your details, your placement sizes. You'll get a better sense of how to make your sketches even stronger. So that's what this one is. So a couple things just to review. You need to have, oops, let's zoom out. All right, make sure to have 2 thumbnail sketches. You want 2. If you want to do 3, go for it. If you just do 1, you're gonna get knocked down some points. So remember, you want at least 2. And make sure they measure about like 2 by 3 inches. You want to have some notes. You can have them like written everywhere. It doesn't have to be like on the corner like I did it. This is just the way that works for me. And remember to check the different ways to create space, and also do your research on what social distancing is. I've provided some links and some other information there on the PowerPoint, so be sure to check that out. And if you have any questions, you can of course contact me and ask questions. I encourage it. I want to make sure that you're all on the same page. But all of you have been doing a really great job, and it's all coming together, and I'm really happy to see the project coming out really well. So office hours are posted on Google Classroom. The prompts are posted, examples are posted, so you have a bunch of resources. Please use them. And those of you watching the video, thank you so much for watching these videos. I hope they help and that you are doing well, staying safe, practicing your social distancing. Remember, it's important. We want this quarantine to end. This is one of the ways that it can help. Yeah, well, thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk soon. Bye.